Good morning. So we had a lot of language classes and literature, so it's going to be a different focus with business classes. I have been primarily teaching accounting classes at PCC, and we have 4 accounting classes that we offer at PCC. So the 111 is like a baby course, so I'm going to leave that for now. But the other 3 courses are transfer courses, so they are dealt at a higher level. So that's where the students can be challenged, not only the transfer students, but the others also. I have been doing something with BA 212. This is a financial accounting course, a second level. I went on a CIE trip, just like Sarah, to Ireland. I'm not suggesting we have to go on these trips to do this, but in my case, that's how the enthusiasm came. So right after the trip, there are a lot of multinational corporations that are operating in Ireland. I'm talking about 2 years back. It's scaling down now. The reason why they have gone there is because the government is offering them advantages, tax incentives, and infrastructure setup. So we are looking at corporations like Nike, Dell, Pfizer, a lot of US companies moving there. In this course, the students are learning about how to interpret their financial results. Just like going to a doctor to look at the health, they are looking at the health of the company. And each chapter takes them through different aspects. So I give them a project at the beginning of the term. So they have 10 to 11 weeks to work on that. Each of them can choose different companies. And as we go through the chapter, in one chapter we are looking at the cash position. What's happening with cash? How is it important? In a different way, they are looking at inventory position. So as we go through each chapter, we can discuss what they have learned and then compare it to the companies they have chosen. And at the end of the term, they are going to come back and tell the financial results, how they interpret, what is it going to be for the future, what are they predicting. And then I say, if I give you $1,000, which company would you like to buy the stocks in? Some of them would say, it's hard for me to decide. I say, no, you have to decide. That's where you take the risk. And I also asked them a question about how much time they spent over the 10 or 11 weeks and what they have learned. The number of hours varies anywhere from 5 to 40 hours. But that doesn't reflect on the amount of work. Someone who's worked for 5 hours just brings in a beautiful report. But I think it sets the pace for the students to think and then brings a practical application to what they are learning in the course. And each term I have been varying this. The last term I asked them about the banks which have received the stimulus money. Compare that to a non-US bank. How does that matter? Have you been seeing the predictions that are coming true? And also maybe choose automobile, maybe US auto companies versus European, or compare the results. The product that is coming out of the students has been outstanding. I just brought some samples in case you're interested. These looks like volume, but these, I usually ask them to pick it up at the end of the term, but sometimes, once they get the grade, they don't come back. So that's how I keep these. But I'm simply amazed at the amount of research skills. We have such contemporary skills now on the wiki, on the web. So they are learning to use that, and they are looking outside the US at companies. So this has been really successful. Like Jane said, we went on a trip to Hong Kong and China, actually. So how do we use that? And I'm looking at the other 2 courses to incorporate internationalization. So we had a lot of lectures in different universities. We got to visit some businesses. One of the business is, okay, Somehow I need to get to the bottom of the screen. You can see here, it's Williams Controls. This is a business that is existing right in our backyard. It's right here. We visited, thanks to Bonnie, their office in Suzhou. Suzhou is the sister city of Portland, and the reason Williams Controls moved to China is there are many advantages for businesses going on to foreign countries. Suzhou has an industrial park and also a development center, and they make their procedures really transparent, so businesses can simply move in there. They help them to set up business. This Monday, myself and Bonnie visited Williams Controls here. We did the opposite. We went to the China facility first, then we went to see them. We met with the CFO, and it was amazing to find out this is a business which was nearly bankrupt in 2004, and they came back and they've got their stock listed back in NASDAQ. That's a big deal. A nearly bankrupt company going back and publicly owned, and they're going back into the stock exchange. They started in China 2005, 2006, and that's because the market exists for them, and they've captured the market. What the business does is it's a manufacturing company. It's a medium-sized manufacturing company. They're manufacturing pedals and for large and medium-sized vehicles, like a school bus maybe, for an example, or a big truck. That's their business. So they have a limited market. They can't be supplying to all the auto industries, so they have limited customer base. So to explore their opportunity in China, there was help from the local government, and they could also get key personnel to work there, which means the local, so they have some challenges also. They are working with the local, so one thing the CFO was mentioning is, he said, even to collect cash. In the US, as soon as they ship the product and they send a bill, the customers make the payment. But in China, the culture is different. Even before the product is shipped, they've got to coax the customer saying that, we are going to ship the product. You need to get ready to send us the payment. It's a different mentality. So they need to understand to do the business there. So what they have done is they have hired local experts to run the business, but it's the modern technology. They are connected 24 hours. I asked him about how is accounting done, because around the world the accounting practices are different. Coming from India, I know the terminology is different. The way accounting practices, each inventory is dealt differently. They have done something that is ingenious. They have hired accounting and finance faculty in Suzhou, folks to do accounting, but the data entry is only done there. It's immediately transferred to their Portland server. And the department here is taking complete control over accounting. The person who is doing the finance and accounting, they are fluent in both Mandarin and English. These are things that business students need to know. They can be sitting here and doing this, learning about accounting and finance, but they have to know how it's possible in today's world where business and global is very synonymous. They need to know how to react to new situations, how to use opportunities. So after my visit to Williams Controls, I got so excited. I was thinking about doing something maybe after a term, because I'm teaching just online now. The contemporary sources are so efficient. I went and posted their company's website. I asked the CFO for permission. It's public information. And in my BA 213 class, I posted their website. I gave them some background information. There is a video on the company's website that shows their facilities in Suzhou, their facility in Portland, And it's all the terminology they're learning right now. The first 2 chapters, they're learning about Lean, they're learning about Six Sigma, they're learning about ISO certification. It's so relevant, and it's a narrated, video that's on the company's website. So I posted it on Tuesday, and I said, look at it, and then let's start a discussion. It's amazing to see the students are, they're saying it's really nice for us to know that the product that is manufactured here is in demand around the world. I think it's the way to catch up the excitement with the students. And I think in my campus class, when I start teaching this course, I will be introducing more elements into the course so we can choose more companies. The students came back and said, do you know about these companies? There are other companies in Portland who are doing business. It's the awareness that brings excitement to these classes. So Williams Controls will be a good example to use in the courses. So like I said, I'm looking at BA 213. This is a managerial accounting class. This is where students learn not only accounting, but they're looking at the future, so they know how to use the numbers to carry on business efficiently. They're actually being managers, decision makers, how they take risks. So I was just, this is during our visit to the factory. Sam teaches in Cascade, so she's not here. These are possible areas I can explore during the course. For example, Williams has 25 different products. They are constantly innovating, using new technology. So, should they go in for product X versus product Y? They have a new facility, a 40,000 square feet facility that they haven't started using. How would they use it? These are numbers I can use in the class to create scenarios so students know to work those, to see a practical aspect about what they are learning. So we have a lot of, I won't go through all this, it'll take more time, but these are possible topics I can look at. The other course I'm looking at is BA 211. This is the one below 212. This is where they're simply getting exposed to financial accounting. They're learning the nitty-gritty details, and they're not there yet to analyze statements, but they're learning about to view the company as a whole and also about stock prices. These are possible topics that can be explored. I mean, it could be 1 or 2, or it could be all. Something unique about the Chinese stock exchange and Hong Kong stock exchanges, they have different types of stocks that are listed. It's almost through A to Z, like a bouquet of stock for Jane. So, that's something. On the day we visited Hong Kong Stock Exchange, of course, the stock was down. You see the downward arrow. But, that's something unique about a stock exchange that's outside the US. So this would be a good exposure for the students. There could be ethical considerations. Right now, Williams Controls, whatever they manufactured here, they are selling it here in the US market. Whatever is manufactured in the Chinese market, which is of course cheaper, cost is a big factor there. That's why they're, but they are selling it right now in the Chinese market. So what is manufactured in there, can they sell it outside China at a higher price? This may be an ethical question we can discuss in the class, and so on. So these are 2 other courses that I'm looking at, and I could share this with other business faculty. I'm, at Rock Creek, I plan to meet with other accounting faculty and share this. So, they may come up with newer ideas, so we can do a concrete effort in internationalizing courses there. So that's a possibility. Do you have any questions at this point? During the trip, we also had an opportunity in Suzhou to meet with some interns. These are students attending college there and outside of Suzhou. Some are within Suzhou. Suzhou is actually 100 kilometers west of Shanghai, if you can imagine. Beijing is up there, Shanghai, and then Suzhou. It's kind of similar to Portland, but in one side you see everything is very quiet, and the other side it's bubbling with industries. These students they were interning with the Department of Foreign Affairs, and each of them is majoring in a different language, Russian, Spanish, French. It was really a nice opportunity for us to get to know the younger generation there and spend some time. And what we learned, one thing that was very noteworthy for me is they said when they are in 12th grade, they take one exam, and that determines how they do, which college they landed. Whether they go to Beijing University, which is the top notch, or that single exam determines how they go to school. That's something interesting for me to share with the students here, So they are so focused on that exam, that they take in 12th grade. But we also found out that students are universal, and the use of cell phone is also universal. Whether they are on a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, they are always on the go. So these are some ideas that I have for my courses, and of course I have a website that, when I teach campus classes, I put them on the website.
Wonderful.